Gary, you and I have talked about this in the past about, you know, you know, agents, say you're an employee and you've got, agents out there doing work for you, and each agent is the equivalent of an employee. You know, how do you price that? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, as far as like, how do you do this in such a way? How do you, first of all, take the pricing out of it? How do you even organize this in such a way? Because if you have agents, you could have one agent, 10 agents, 100 agents. It's not like an employee where you have to onboard them and then, like, hey, I'm going to hire 10 employees. You can have an infinite number of agents, so planning out the work that you need to do. What are your thoughts on like, how do you even organize that from an
Yeah.
enterprise position?
And it's hard to just put one thought on it because there's so many different use case scenarios depending on the industry too. Because if you're tying it into outcomes, business outcomes, and you're, equating it to economic value for that organization, it's not a one size fit all for every single industry.
Yeah.
So you're going to have different pricing models, and we talked about it. You mentioned, you could see how this won't be framed around tokens per se, because that can be a little confusing for the rest of the world, but more like a credit based, usage based. But I've been seeing a lot of that hybrid model. What I mean
Yeah.
by like
Yeah.
the seat plus the
See
outcome based,
credits.
because obviously not everyone's going to they're still making that transition still. People who are still used to the old interfaces and some of the old SaaS platforms, so they're still paying for that baseline seat pricing. So now they're just adding on, paying for that additional piece that are more related towards outcomes. So like, kind of just to throw some examples out there, right? Like Salesforce, their agent force, right? Like they're trying to protect and expand value by moving beyond traditional seats into agent actions, conversations, credits, and workflow based value. This basically supports the idea that, companies are not abandoning SaaS pricing overnight. They are layering in they are layering in new meters on top of the old models. Like, Microsoft Copilot, same thing. They're defending their seat model with Copilot add-ons, right? But
Yeah.
also toward credits and agents through Copilot Studio. Um, Stripe, another big example, right? This is an infrastructure example. If AI companies need usage, token, credit, outcome subscription, and hybrid billing, then the billing layer becomes more strategic. Stripe is not just selling payments, it's the entire infrastructure behind payments.
I think there's a hazard though, and this is the SaaS creep that we have going on right now, is that we're all paying for seats. We pay for seats for the Futurmatic, Google Workspace
Mhm.
instance and all those pieces, is that we're paying for prompts umpteen times over. The reality is that I'm not looking for every provider that I'm using to provide AI. I want connectivity so I can plug our organization's intelligence into their stuff. I don't want to pay for yet another half-ass integrated prompt mechanism in their platforms. And I think that's the misguided part of the product strategy here. And everyone's doing bolt-on. That's the last thing I want. I treat mail as one utility. The AI is another utility I pay for. I do not want everything all in one shot. And the reality is these solutions, when they bake that in, we just went through this with Google, where Google has Google I/O this week and rolling pieces in. That's all great if you're in that world, but even in Google Workspace still today, despite the announcement, I can't use a Gemini prompt in Google Docs to tell me what's going on in Gemini. That
Yeah. Oh,
my
so bad.
our OpenAI private instance is better informed because it connects those systems. And I think that's the part where I think the greed of being able to increase your per seats, because you're losing seats elsewhere. The greed of being able to go and dramatically increase that per seat pricing. That somehow Adobe's cloud package has gone from $49 a month to over $100 a
Yep.
month in
Yeah.
just a year. And the reality is, for my use of those tools, and I use them, that I'm not using it any differently than I did before, and I'm paying twice as much. And I don't know that that's a sustainable model, and increases pressures for people to say, hey, maybe I don't need this.